characters in this monologue are Mallory, the sister of Mark, Mark, the son who is dying, Derek, the father of Mark and Mallory, and Louise, the depressed mother of Mark and Mallory. The setting is Hospital Room 423, Atlanta, Georgia, in the ICU. Stage direction. Mallory walks in the room first to sit beside her brother's bedside. Derek and Louise follow her in but stay at the foot of the bed. Mark is in a coma, going on 10 days now. The main conflict of the short play, Antigone, the uncle Creon refuses to let anyone bury Antigone's brother Polynices. Once Antigone is caught breaking the law and burying her brother, she is sentenced to death by hanging. This causes a downfall in the lives of all the other characters. Mallory. Mark has been in a coma for 10 days now, and I think it's time for us to talk about how to proceed. No one saw this coming, not even Mark himself. It seemed like any other day, the sun shining and the sky blue, but little did we know it would turn into one of the worst days of our lives. We had just finished supper, and Dad, you were headed outside to take care of Rover, but then you saw all the cop cars. I was watching your reaction, and you didn't seem surprised. You had always told Mark to be careful while driving and to look twice. Mom and I were so upset when the cops told us as a family that a transfer truck came out of nowhere and slammed right into Mark's car. The car flipped 4 times, and when the EMS got on the scene, they knew right away Mark was brain dead. The doctors say he will never wake up again, so we must talk about our options. Mom is too upset to come see him most of the time, so we need to do this without her. We can take Mark to a long-term care center or leave him at the hospital to see if a miracle happens, but the doctors don't think that will happen. Or pull the plug. I know we may regret any of the decisions we make, but we need to do this. As his sister, I believe we should take him to a long-term care center, so it will be easier on the family, but financially it will hurt us. Daddy, I know you think pulling the plug is the smartest decision, but there is nothing the doctors can do anymore, and it will help us get over the death. Scene 2. 2 hours have passed, and it's time to make a decision. Mallory and Derek meet to tell the doctors. As they are walking to room 423, they see nurses running down the hall yelling for help. Mallory. The doctors have informed us that Mark had suffered from an aneurysm and died at 7:54 p.m. My father and I immediately called Mother to tell her the news, and to have her meet us at the hospital. We decided as a family when and where the funeral would be. Thursday at 4 p.m. All of our family and friends came to help mourn our loss, but it just made things worse, especially on our mother. Later that night, while heading to bed, my father found a letter in my mother's body in the bathtub. She had overdosed on pills. After my mother's death, our family began to fall apart because my father was so lonely and never wanted family over. In my real-life example of Antigone, Mark represents Polynices, the dying brother. Mallory represents Antigone fighting for what is right. Derek represents Creon, and Louise represents Evorstice. The main conflict in the play is Creon will not allow anyone to bury Polynices, but in the monologue, the conflict is Derek will not keep Mark alive any longer. Louise, the mother, represents Eurydice and Hammond when they both commit suicide after hearing about Mark's death. To make the monologue be set in the present 2016 and to have real-world problems, I used the character Mark as someone who is on life support. Even though the issues in Antigone was whether or not Polynices' body should be buried or not, and in my version, the problem is what the family should do with Mark's body. I used the characters to represent Creon and Antigone as daughter and father instead of uncle and niece to make a stronger connection. In Antigone, Creon is against Polynices' burial and does not treat his family well. So in the 2016 version, Derek, the dad, does not sadden when told Mark is dead. The mother, Louise, was barely in the story, just like Eurydice, but commits suicide once they hear about the death. In the 2016 version, there is no character for Haman, but I tried to bring in his attitude and actions in Antigone by having the mother Louise commit suicide like he did in the story.